call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Mayor Stone is absent. Approval of the agenda. I see two additions, 7I, authorizing execution of closing documents, and 7J, Keekly Underground payment request. Is there any other additions or changes?
Just an updated report on the senior center claims.
Okay, under unfinished business?
The senior center
7H.
was the air conditioner that was 7H, and then the claims are 10.
Okay, I didn't have H as a change on mine. Okay,
Just updated staff reports, I think.
okay. Any other changes?
Nope.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written with those changes?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joe. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes, July 16th, regular meeting. I was not present for that meeting, so I will be abstaining. If there are any other changes or adjustments. Yep.
I didn't see any edits needed. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the July 16th meeting.
Motion by Brad. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Excuse me. Opposed? Abstentions? Aye. Motion carries 3 in favor, 1 abstention. It is now time for a public open forum. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to the council? Okay, can you please speak, stand at the podium, speak your name and address? And as a reminder, you have 2 minutes to address the council.
3.
3 minutes.
3, excuse me.
Thank you for your time, Acting Mayor, members of the council. My name is Attorney Gary Lustico. I represent Jeff and Beverly Lake in regard to a consideration request for the appeal of the penalty order. My understanding of the opportunity to address the council is during the open forum now. I understand it'll later be considered tonight. And if the council at the later consideration time has any questions that I don't get covered now, I'm glad to answer those. This is a matter that the Lakes have been dealing with now since last year. And what it started out as is they have a lake lot and they desired to protect trees to furnish access to their lot, just like anyone else that owns lake property. And what they did was they went in and they applied for a permit with the city on March 26th of 2021. At that time, they then received a response on March 30th of 2021, and the response simply said, you'll likely need a permit from the Sauk River Watershed District. They then at that time applied for a permit with the Watershed District on April 2nd of 2021, and they were granted a permit from the Watershed District on April 19th of 2021. That's permit number 21-017 with the Watershed District. They've been in complete compliance with that. They've had no issues with that. And now the city is coming forward with a hefty penalty amount and maybe other conditions. And the city did send out a letter that they acknowledged that the majority of the work on the site was granted under Minnesota statute at section 15.99, commonly referred to as a 60-day rule, which we agree with that. And in addition to that, now the city's coming forward and saying, but you still violated some law. You still didn't have a permit. And we disagree with that. Today, I think what is before the council is the penalty amount. And the city is basically saying, you violated the rules, you have to pay some penalty. But the statute sets out that the permit is to be issued after 60 days, which it was. And they came in, they didn't hide any of this. Nothing was done in the middle of the night. It's all public record. Anybody could, look at the records from the Sauk River Watershed District. They talked to everybody they could talk to. What they're trying to do is keep the trees from falling in the lake. And they They did work accordingly to that. Under the ordinance, what is required, and it's section 156.006 uppercase C, is that once a permit is applied for, the city has 10 days to complete a completeness review. And what the purpose of that is so that the applicant can know if there's something they still need to provide, and they weren't provided anything. There wasn't a checklist, there was no response, and for 1,418 days, no one said anything to them. Every agency they worked with to build the lot in a handsome, workable way. There was never a problem until the city came forward with a restoration order. And we think no penalty is appropriate, but the penalty that has been assessed is based on if they had a permit for none of this. And there's, under any position, there was a permit for the vast majority of this. And again, this isn't, they didn't go out and do this trying not to follow the rules. They checked with everybody and in good faith. And I think they were, I'm not saying the city, anyone at the city sat up at night thinking of calculated ways to get the lakes. But the result is they got led astray by applying for it, never being told they needed to do anything else except for one thing, which was check with the watershed district, which they did, and they're completely compliant with the watershed district.
I'm going to stop you just out of respect for anyone else who'd like to speak
Yep,
to the
thank you
council.
very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the council?
Well, I can pick it up from there.
Okay. Please state your name and address. When you get to the podium, please state your name and address for the minutes.
Jeff Lake. What else you need?
Address, please.
Address?
Yes.
707 Lake Shore Drive. So basically, when we applied for the permit, I was told to go to the watershed, which I did, picking up where Gary was. Never heard anything from the city, had to do anything else, got the permit. The changes that happened versus the first permit, I actually checked with the watershed, because they gave me a permit, and asked if I needed to do anything else with these changes I want to make. One is, we found a way not to have steps. So we moved it down and made a sidewalk down to the lake. They said, no, we're good with everything you're doing. So we went ahead and did it. Again, it's been 2021 when this happened. And last year is when all this started. What else should I touch on? The DNR came out in 2022, fined me for putting too much sand in the lake. I paid it. They said they had 2 years to tell me if I had to do anything else. Never said a word. That was in 2022. So last summer, that expired also. So this started basically August of last year from the city. So I'm not sure what I could have did differently. I'm not sure I did anything wrong. I heard nothing from the city. Nobody told me how to do anything else. I got no letters that said I had to wait for the city. And after it was complete or the project underway, I never heard from the city that I was missing anything, like Gary referred to. You know, was there something else I needed to check off? I didn't do anything outside of that lakeshore, and I checked on everything with watershed. I didn't build a different house in the backyard. I didn't do anything outside of that lakeshore permit.
Okay.
Anything? Okay.
Thank you. Third and last call, is there anyone else who would like to speak to the council? Okay. Again, state your name and address.
Amy T. Schaefer, 813 Lake Ridge Drive. I'm basically just going to read the letter that I did email to the city council, city administrator, and then the planning commission. It's regarding the moratorium on the lakeshore restorations on Sauk Lake city residents. So I'm writing on behalf of myself and fellow city residents who reside on Sauk Lake to express serious concerns regarding the recently implemented moratorium prohibiting lakeshore restorations for property owners within the city limits, while allowing non-city residents around Sauk Lake to continue such work. This policy is both inequitable and damaging. As residents of the city, we contribute significantly to local revenue, particularly through high property taxes. In fact, a quick review of the county tax records reveals that city properties along Sauk Lake pay some of the highest annual property taxes in the area. It is deeply unjust that those contributing most to the city's tax base are being restricted from protecting their lakeshore properties, while neighboring landowners outside city limits face no restrictions. While I support the goal of ensuring environmentally sound restoration, this moratorium creates a clear double standard. City lakeshore owners are barred from stabilizing their eroding banks, while others on the same lake are allowed to implement restorative and even decorative landscaping measures without restriction. This inequality undermines both fairness and environmental stewardship. There are dozens of city lakeshore properties on Sauk Lake now left exposed to worsening erosion, particularly following recent storms. On our own property, storm damage caused serious washouts beneath trees, and the soil is visibly collapsing into the lake. Why are we not allowed to take reasonable, regulated steps to protect our land? A pattern of poor oversight. In previous years, when the city did issue shoreline restoration permits, there was little to no enforcement. In several documented or witnessed cases, landowners proceeded with work that did not align with state or local guidelines, altering natural vegetation, importing riprap without setbacks, or removing shoreline buffers. These actions often were unchecked, and in some cases, neighboring properties owners who followed the rules were left frustrated and disadvantaged. The lack of this enforcement is not a reason to penalize responsible homeowners through a broad moratorium. Instead, it underscores the need for better processes, clearer standards, routine inspections, and consequences for noncompliance. The absence of past enforcement should not be used to deny current property owners the ability to protect their land, especially those who are ready and willing to follow regulations. Furthermore, shoreline erosion is not merely an aesthetic issue. It leads to environmental degradation, property loss, and long-term cost increases for both residents and the city. Lakeshore restoration efforts, especially those done responsibly with natural buffers and environmentally sound practices, actually protect the lake's health and reduce sedimentation and runoff. We urge the city to reconsider this moratorium, or at the very least, to provide a transparent explanation for its implementation and a clear timeline or conditions for lifting it. Better yet, the city should explore fair and environmentally reasonable guidelines that apply uniformly across the lake, ensuring equal treatment and shared responsibility among all who enjoy and impact Sauk Lake. All residents, inside city limits or out, share the same environmental risks and benefits. The current approach punishes those who pay the most while leaving shorelines vulnerable. An equitable interim policy will protect property values and natural assets, it will encourage reasonable, uniform management, and it demonstrates fair treatment to all citizens. I respectfully request the council to approve an expedited process for city resident permit applications that comply with DNR setbacks and vegetation buffer standards. I also urge transparent communication on when full ordinance updates will occur and assurance that the city residents won't be forced to wait months as their shorelines erode further. Please take swift action to address this disparity and allow Sauk Lake City residents the same rights to protect and restore their properties as others around the lake currently enjoy. Thank you for your time and considerations, and we welcome the opportunity to work with the city on a fair, environmentally responsible shoreline policies and interim solutions for affected residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Anyone else that would like to speak to the council? Anyone else that would like to speak to the council? Last time, anyone who would like to speak to the council? Hearing no one, we will move on to public hearings, which there are none. Reports and presentations, City Engineer Keith.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. A quick update on the 2025 project. It's going very, very well out there, even with all the rains that we continue to still have, but things are going well. As a total, we're probably about 63 to 65% complete with the entire project at this point in time, and things are still on schedule to get everything done in 2025. All pipe work is anticipated to be done by Labor Day, roughly. We should be done with all pipe work. They're currently working on phase 3, putting in pipe on Pine Street between 4th and 5th at this point in time. So really And the sewer and water is in, got a little bit of storm sewer in there, but otherwise we're basically have 3 blocks left on utilities, so it's going very, very well. Sidewalk is in on Pine and Birch from like 5th Street to 7th Street and most of 6th Street and 7th Street. They are working on streets within Phase 2, which are basically Pine and Birch from 7th to 8th, as well as 8th and 9th Street themselves. So they'll be working on those streets, getting those ready for gravel and ultimately paving in those areas. That gets followed behind with the prepping for the walk in those areas as well. So all that sort of different activities happening at the same time. But I would anticipate that we'll be largely done with Phase 1 and 2 street work, probably just into September, and then it's really a Phase 3, those last 4 blocks that will be September and into October to get those complete. So things are going very, very well, and at this point in time, right on schedule with things. So with that, I will ask if you have any questions for me.
I have a couple questions, Keith.
Yep.
And I'm just going to speak in reference to 8th Street.
Yep.
And obviously, you can drive by, you can see we got a significant S-curve right there by Main Street. And also, when I looked at the final plans and I visited with Vicki, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the streets through that area are supposed to be 13 feet driving with 7 feet parking, correct?
That's correct.
So blacktop, there would be 20 feet.
Essentially 20 feet face to face of curb, yep.
Yep. Well, I went out and measured, and there is nothing greater than 17, and the majority of it is 16, and I would ask you to go out and measure it again.
We'll definitely do that and go check.
Okay?
There's some issues in
I can give you the addresses and the locations that I checked.
Yep.
And it's the intersection of Pine and 8th,
Okay,
and it's the block between Ash and Birch, and
okay,
directly in the center of the block.
okay,
One of them, the one to the farthest west, is just shy of 16 feet, and the one to the farthest east is just shy of 17 feet.
okay. We will definitely check that out and make sure that there's no issues there.
Okay. And then furthermore, I just thought it was interesting while I was out there. So I went and measured what we did on Ash Street many, many years ago, where we put parking on one side of the road. So I just measured from the center of the road to the opposite side of the parking. So basically from the center of Ash Street to the west curb.
Yep,
That's 23 feet, roughly.
okay,
Okay? If we had 23 to 36 feet or 38 feet between Main Street and Ash Street, is there a reason why we narrowed it all the way down to a 13-foot drive lane? I'm trying to understand, because by a naked eye, you can look at it and say, are we crazy? I mean, just look at it as you drive and look down there. It doesn't even truly make sense to me.
okay.
So I feel that there needs to be a lot of review of what's been done, and I think we certainly need to go out and measure it and make sure it's right.
Well, on the latter, absolutely, as I already said, we'll definitely be measuring that. As it relates to the width, that was something that was reflected with the council on a couple of occasions of varying widths for those streets, different types of scenarios with parking both sides, no parking at all, 2 ways, those kinds of things. There was a public meeting that was held actually on site where at the time we had the extent of the curbs marked for all different scenarios, so everyone was able to look at what those were. Ultimately, then it was the council who made the decision of
Correct.
what we moved forward with out there. But that's, we only have, so everyone's clear, we only have 33 feet of right-of-way for between Birch and Pine, a little bit past Pine actually to the west, and then it widens out as you get towards Main. From Birch to Ash, we actually have 53 feet in there, and the 20 additional feet is on the north side, actually. So that's the right-of-way. Those are the scenarios that we were working with, is there's just not much room in there. We talked about whether, purchasing right-of-way was something that we wish to do, or we wish to work within the right-of-ways that we have, and that's kind of where we're at. With with the 20-foot width, essentially is a 21-foot from back to back of curb to curb, and then there's a 5-foot walk, so you're at 26 feet in total width through there, is what the plan is at the moment.
Well, when I look at the final plan that we approved, which is this, you had a gradual S-curve at the end. I guess I don't view that as gradual, but, and I will also agree with you that the council did have a lot of conversations about being one way, you know, parking on one side versus the other. I don't know that we had conversations about the total width and that 13 feet was going to be driving and 7 was going to be parking. However, I guess if you drive emergency services vehicles and somebody ain't all the way over to the far, well, basically on top of the curb, there will be a tough time driving down that street with emergency service vehicles. 13 feet's not a lot of width. So I'm not, we voted on it as a group. Of course, I voted against it, but I'm not here to say we did it wrong. What I'm saying is what's done today does not appear right. And I would ask to please look into it.
We'll definitely measure the width, and we'll also verify those curves as you indicated. Perhaps they look like they're sharper than what they actually are on the plans, and I will verify those things.
Thank you.
I just had a question as we get closer to the school timing with a lot of walkers in that area because there aren't bus pickup. Making plans, letting families be notified of the best route to school instead of kids traipsing through unsidewalked, unfinished roads that could be
Yep.
a safety hazard.
We will be in touch with the school and the bus to make sure so they know where everything's at. They know if there needs to be any preliminary adjustments or where pickups need to be. And then, like I said, largely things will be with the exception of people living on Birch between Sinclair Lewis and 4th, the majority of that should be in really good shape by the start of school or very close to that. But we will definitely coordinate with the school.
Anyone else have any questions for Keith? Nope. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
6B EDA report. Vicki?
So the EDA met today in regular session. We just have a couple items on their agenda, which are recommendations tonight. They review and recommend proceeding with the Canna Avenue project, and that would be Canna Avenue and Tractor Trail down by Walmart and Tractor Supply. They do approve the TIF PAYGO payments for the first half of 25. That'll actually be on your agenda at the next meeting. And then we have 2 lot sales for Author's Edition that they're going to request that you approve us to execute at tonight's meeting as well. And we just took a look at the progress of the Main Street abatement repayment. That was where the city purchased the land and put in the utilities, and then we did the Main Street project, and their property taxes were diverted to pay us back for those. And so we're at the very end of that. The first half of taxes in 26 will more than cover paying that back to the city. So there's a couple action items for you tonight. Otherwise, it was a nice short meeting.
Okay. Any questions regarding EDA? Thank you, Vicki. Move on to action item 7A, resolution ordering feasibility study Trunk Highway 71 project.
So as you know, we've been starting the Trunk Highway 71 Main Street project. It's in the design phase with MnDOT, and the city, as part of the project, will be designing the city utilities as well as any work outside the MnDOT road right-of-way with some side street work. If you remember, we had some side street connections that we needed to make, and so we were trying to incorporate those into this project. Because the project will potentially involve special assessments, the city must proceed under Minnesota Chapter 429. This requires a feasibility report and public hearings on the proposal. In order to proceed, the city should direct the city engineer to prepare a feasibility report for the project to be presented to the city council. You probably won't see it till late winter or early spring. There's a lot of moving parts with this project. The scope of the project, Keith is going to kind of give that or show you the scope of the project here, after which we should order that the formal feasibility report be presented. So I will hopefully turn this on.
Hopefully this will work, so everyone at home is able to see. I've tried 2 different lasers to work to show with the TV, and they don't seem to go on there. So I'm going to go up there and we'll be pointing instead. I think that will be best. But the purpose of this is to really talk about and make sure that we're all on the same page of what the scope would be of the feasibility report. What I'm showing you is really what's been talked about for a while now in terms of that it would be everything along 71 corridor itself, but also one block off for all the streets that haven't been recently done. And we'll go through those and talk about that. Hopefully this will pick up and go. Maybe it won't. Okay. Don't know why that's not going, but it's not. So we'll just do it this way, hopefully. This way. Uh-oh. Hold on.
Technology.
Now maybe it's going to work. Okay. Just had to get it started again, I guess. All right. So starting really at the north end of the project, just want to make sure I'm on the first slide. So we've got Linden Lane right here. That's right next to the gas station up there. We've got 4th Street North is shown. The green is the sanitary sewer. The blue is the water main through those areas. I've gotten here in the red will sort of be some storm sewer, which we really don't know exactly the sizes of that yet, but generally where the storm sewer improvements would need to be. The streets are what are in that kind of hatched brownish area. So basically, as you can see, it's one block off, 3rd Street from Main to Pine, a little bit. We've already done Lake Street. We did not do this little section here just to tie in through there. We also have 2nd Street north through there. We're looking at storm sewer that would probably go down this street and ultimately come into the property, which I'll show a little bit later there, that's off of between 1st and 2nd. This shows 2nd Street North, which kind of shows where that storm sewer would potentially go into. Once again, this would be a main trunk water main that would be going down and connecting into the existing trunk water main that's located here on 1st Street North. Once again, the street improvements between Main and Pine Street on 1st Street North. As we go across to the south, across the river, we've got 1st Street South. We also have a main water main tie-in up there. That's a 12-inch, so we'd be tying into there. That 12-inch trunk water main basically goes all the way down, kind of from the whole north end, all the way down to the south end. It really provides the utility a main spine, which we don't really have, that kind of is in the middle of town to move our water around town. That's our trunk that we really don't have. 2nd Street South, both sides. If you remember, this section was talked about as it relates to the 2022 project out here, and it was pulled off, thinking that we would do it with this particular project. So those are those 2 blocks. To the south, we've already done, 5th Street. We've done this is Sinclair Lewis. We've done those. Our 4th Street, we've done Sinclair Lewis. So we're not doing those on the side street. Once again, this would be just the main spine of sanitary sewer as well as water main. To the south, we have 5th Street South, and that's the block that we pulled off of the 2025 project so that we could do it in conjunction with that project. That was related to some services that are in that lot that's in the northwest corner there. So that was the reason for those. We've recently done 5th Street on the other side. This comes down to 6th Street. We've done 6th Street. That's what we're doing now on this other side. So it would be 6th Street on the east side. We then come down to 7th Street, so it would be 7th Street down here. Now here's an area we have some, potential questions. We have sanitary sewer going here, but as you'll note, we do have a short segment that goes up the alley, and does it make sense at this point in time if we're going to do that? Should we do that little stub that goes up the alley? So that would be kind of a question, whether that should or should not be within the scope of the project. We have to replace a small lift station that's down here just on the north side of the Wobegon Trail on the west side of 71. There is, talking to utility, there is a potential to actually eliminate this lift station and run it gravity actually to the north, but that main sewer line would be deeper through there. So we look at that potentially as a cost alternative to see, does it make sense to do that, or does it not make sense to do that? As you would imagine, we're going some of the deepest part right through the heart of downtown, the main block there. So does it make sense? Is it feasible to even consider doing that? But that could be an option as well. Down here on the south side, we've got 8th Street South coming all the way over to Getty. And then once again, further to the south, these are the sanitary sewer, the water main. Once again, we've got this block. This is another segment, is do we consider doing this segment in between, because they're connected together. So that's kind of a should that or should that not be potentially part of the scope of the project. This is, a couple blocks north and then a couple lots to the north and then a lot to the east to make that connection. Moving on down, we've got Cass Street, we've got 10th Street. Once again, the block either side. We keep coming down to the south with the sewer and the water. The water ultimately moves to the other side of the road, at least that's where it is now. And then the sewer actually comes down, kind of makes a U-turn and heads back north on the other side. So probably replace it where it's at. The water comes down and we connect into the trunk down on 12th Street South. So that's kind of the extent of the utilities and the majority of the street work. With the exception of, this is something as it relates to, we've talked about this as another relief valve. So this is 8th Street to continue all the way down and that discharge into the floodplain on the far east side there. And then obviously the streets through here would be totally torn up. They would need to be replaced, or at least the majority of it, if not all of it. Most of it's not in real good shape, so it's probably the time to actually redo everything at the same time we do this. But we don't have capacity from 71. This would be something that we'd be discussing with MnDOT as it relates to cost sharing, so because they've got water that's coming through there currently. It's been in there a long, long time. The existing main comes out through here and just doesn't have enough capacity, as we've talked about previously. The other thing would be back here on 1st Street North. Because of the improvements they're looking at the bridge, we're looking at having to do potentially a bypass roadway that comes through 1st Street and then connects all the way over here to Morning View Road. And that's what MnDOT is suggesting that we're going to need to have, because the bridge will be closed down so that we have emergency vehicles and others will be able to get through there. What type of roadway that is at the moment, that probably is where we want a permanent roadway, but is it, maybe it's just a gravel roadway for the short term. Perhaps it's a rural type section where it's got pavement on it, but there's no curb and gutter, those kinds of things. So there's a couple different options that we could look at for that bypass roadway through there. And once again, up here is kind of that storm ponding area, so we can catch all that water before we discharge it and discharge it down into the creek. So that's kind of the total and the draft scope that I have for the project for you to react to. Let me just go back. I can go back to any page that you would like, but I guess we're looking for, is this the scope that you would envision? Is there anything that you think we shouldn't include, things that we should include that are not on here to move forward with? So looking for some input from you. We have some time. As Vicky said, it's going to take a while. We don't have to necessarily say, hey, let's define this for sure tonight, but we need to do that sometime in the near term. So if you say, let's not look at these blocks, we could be cutting those out fairly early in the process. So we need to fairly soon know if there's something you don't want. Once again, is based upon what we did when we looked at doing the half-cent sales tax. It looked at going one block off of the streets all the way through. If there's any desire to make any adjustments to that, now would be the time to consider that. So with that, I'll turn it over to you for any questions and comments.
Your legend shows the orange slash marks on the previous, so looking at each block, those are full reconstructs?
Yes, those would be full reconstructs. That's correct. Let me see if I can get down to a couple of them here.
Okay. And mainly because we're going to end up pulling all the water, all the sewer
Yeah, so we'd be doing, once we get down and take all the sewer and water out, the street's pretty well gone. And most of those streets are not in very good shape.
But we do have the opportunity, because of the timing and the identified need with the local option sales tax, to tie this in, because that was our goal, that was our stated goal.
Yes, that's
for
our
this
goal, and
project.
that's where the dollars that we're collecting, the budget, obviously our numbers, that'll be part of the feasibility to update the cost estimates and see where we are as it relates to the dollars that we have, the projections, and are they matching up? At that point in time, before we actually move forward into implementation, you could make those decisions, hey, let's not do this or this, those kind of decisions can come later. We're really talking about the feasibility of what we're going to look at in terms of the total scope. You can actually cut back if you wish to a final implementation.
Council, thoughts?
Just one question with the bridge. Are they replacing that or just redecking it, or what's the plan with the bridge over the dam?
They're talking about there's lighting, they're doing redecking of it. What else is there? Railings, looking at trying to do a pedestrian or trail across it. So make that from a safer perspective from what it is now for pedestrians. So I don't really know at this stage how long that would be out of, from us being able to use it for traffic, but it would be a while. And obviously, Morning View Drive is residential, and
And the first street is tight
there's
down.
really no other really good route to be able to try to get there, unfortunately.
And I'm just thinking on the fire department side too, we have a third of our department that lives north of that
Yeah.
bridge and
Yeah,
for responding, but,
yeah.
okay.
That's why we're talking about really trying to need it. And I don't know if if you could address whether you've talked to MnDOT as it relates to cost share for a bypass roadway? Yeah.
Okay.
So typically it would be, but I haven't been part of those discussions yet, so.
It would seem that if we're going to attempt to work with MnDOT to do cost sharing, that we would move forward with at least getting the feasibility study on all of it, because some or all of it could be cost shared. And if we don't have the data to share with MnDOT, then
Yep.
we can't even attempt to, request cost sharing for it. Because it's the feasibility. Does it make sense in the big scope? Does it fit, what the city's goals are and what the project's overall plans are? So I think, I don't see anything in the feasibility study that's way out of line, or where we wouldn't say, well, absolutely not. It seems like it's all tied one way or another to Trunk Highway 71. Even the part about going all the way across the school property, because we've talked for years that this has been a issue of being able to go somewhere with the water, and we've always been undersized. And if MnDOT is looking at this from a big scope picture, and we got lots of years to work through all this, but it goes quick, I think doing the feasibility is the right thing to do. My question to you is, what does it cost?
The cost it's based upon our contract, which is an hourly, and then that gets put into the total cost of the project. That's the way it is in our contract currently. The council has the ability to ask for a specific, a proposal for it, and we certainly can do that if that's what the council's wishes. We can do that. So we just, once again, it has to define what are we looking at as it relates to, so I can put together that number to go forward. But that is your prerogative to ask for that. And to be just to reiterate on your comment about MnDOT's cost participation, they really won't participate in the side streets, but all that storm sewer, some of those major, like on the north side, those things, that's a lot of their water. And there's they have to go someplace with it. And to go someplace goes all the way down, Second or First and through there. So, there's going to be cost participation for that, for the bypass roadway, for the relief on 8th Street, all those things, they're already well aware of that at this point in time, so they know, they've already got the hydraulics on it, so they know that those things are needed, just to be clear with the council.
Joe, Scott?
I mean, first time seeing the report, there's nothing that I can think of that would be added off the top of my head. I think the bypass and the cost share opportunities make sense to look at. We're gonna need a bypass, and that's the logical place to go with that. So, I think it makes sense to move forward, find out. We can always cut back once we see what it is. I mean, versus not including it and then asking for it later.
Those couple of small sanitary things I pointed out, they were sort of off the streets. Is that something you feel that should be included? That it's sort of connecting, the end is one little tag that goes up an alley, and the other one's kind of connecting two pieces that would be new, but it's not right on that corridor, so that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention.
In the scheme of what you're doing, adding those half blocks and couple off blocks, I think, again, it's infrastructure that needs something done, and it's well past replacement that it should be included, in my opinion.
And the utility, I know, has been budgeting and for all of those things. So my understanding, talking to Glenn, that's kind of in his budgets. I've been updating him on, as it's gone through since we first put together initial preliminary. So he's been kind of updating his numbers every year that's gone by and is continuing to do that moving forward.
I guess just my last comment is I would prefer to get a cost estimate prior to us moving forward. That way we get an idea what these costs are going to be.
Yep. And you can make that part of your action if you wish to do that, and then we certainly can do that.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Otherwise, I'll be looking for a motion to approve Resolution 2025-69, ordering preparation of feasibility report for 2028 project.
I'll make a I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2569, ordering preparation of feasibility report for 2028 project with the condition that an approved, agreed upon cost is in place prior to execution.
Okay, that is a motion by Brad. Would anyone like to second?
I'll second it.
A second by Joe. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7B, consider request for appeal of penalty, Lake.
Okay, so you spoke to the attorney earlier this evening regarding the Jeff Lake appeal. Just kind of what the question or what the request is to appear to the council tonight is to contest the administrative penalty that was assessed to them for the shoreline alteration violation. And they also stated they wish to work with the city to attempt to find a mutually agreeable solution to the alleged violations. Little bit past what he was saying, the issues with the permit for the wall and all of those things, those are not part of this. This is solely the sand that was brought in and the walkway. So the permit from the watershed, that we agree that was approved, that's all done. This is just for bringing in the sand and the walkway that was in front of you tonight. And that was what the letter was sent to him regarding. Both of those is that paved walkway within the shore impact zone, which is 25 feet from the ordinary high water mark landward, is an issue. If you recall, we had a violation before where that was required to be taken out on another property that we dealt with. And then the other one was the sand blanket, how many cubic yards of sand were brought into the property. And to complicate things, it's also in the floodplain where it's not allowed to be done at all. And so there's other steps that need to be taken. So those are the two items that are really at issue here. We're not contesting the wall or any of those other permit or items that he got from the watershed. So this is an ongoing process. I don't know how you wish to proceed. His request, of course, is to repeal the fine and then move forward from there. At this point, it may be a better option for it to go to one of the committees, maybe the policy committee or the operations committees, to sit around a table with them so we can come to some kind of agreement, rather than trying to hash it out right here, unless you feel that that's something you want to do tonight.
I think it'd be really difficult to hash this out tonight. I mean, I think there's new information that was presented during the open forum that wasn't in this letter as it related to the fine from the DNR that was paid, and there was a 2-year window for that. Indicated there was an approach back to the watershed. They sounded like they gave them the okay from verbally, whether it's written or not. So I think we as a council would need to do more research before we could make a decision one way or the other on that. I would think there would be a benefit for them to work with one of the committees versus trying to litigate and have a discussion through a council meeting and say, hey, let's do this. I mean, we could be talking for an hour discussing these type of things, but if we get one of the committees to work on it, have those discussions, understand where they're at, the perspective from the council and the ordinance rules, and kind of figure it out there. Because, yeah, I mean, there's no way I think we can take action on it in any capacity with some of this information that really wasn't in the packet here from their letters or our letter there. So that's my thoughts.
I agree with Joe. I think there's too much we need the back and forth conversation too, so we make sure everything is, square and everything, that we know all the details, they know where we're coming from. And with the light, I think, yeah, it needs to go to the operations committee or something that we do that, but then we also need to look at is the penalty still accruing right now?
That will be up to the council. That was, as of that date, that's what it was.
Okay, because if that's the case and we want to move this on to the committee, I think we need to pause that.
Well, I mean, we can always amend it at that point too,
Yeah.
say, okay, we made that decision at this point, we're not gonna accrue from there forward, or
Yep.
we'll go back to a certain point, with what it currently was in this letter, I think was 7,800 for 78 days, which is
June 20th.
obviously has passed, beyond that, so there'd be additional accrual there. But I think that's where we need to just figure this all out, and then we can figure out what that adjustment would need to be from a council level on any type of amendment for the penalty, or, again, yeah, just figuring this all out from all the conversations between the other entities that have been involved in this, which is obviously part of the shoreland moratorium, is the different agencies without clear communication and understanding of what needs to be done.
I agree with all points made. I would hope that maybe if we can include in this, as Scott mentioned, the question of whether the penalties are accruing, can we make that part of the motion, whatever we consider to stop at this moment, to reconsider, so they have clear information, leaving this expectations moving forward? Is that a?
Yeah, I personally would be in support of, pausing any additional expenditure or penalty. That would seem to be, that would make sense. I know Joe has a good point. We can always go back and change the penalty to any date. But I think for their own sense of mind and clarity, there's no, we got a lot of work ahead of us. Not only, we're going to talk about this and work through it, but, we got other things on the agenda tonight about the moratorium. So I think too that this needs to go to, whether it's operations or policy is kind of where my head is, where the best spot is. I'm not 100% sure. Vicki, you have a
Can we
thought
get together
there?
together?
I
Well,
don't think
you're gonna have
operations
multiple-
usually
Oh,
handles
yeah.
like physical things that are going to
this
change.
is a
But
policy.
the
I think
policy
policy
committee is
committee.
probably going to be setting policy going forward.
Forward, yeah.
I would
So-
say,
More of an operation.
I'd say
It's a more of a policy
Policy.
issue.
Yeah.
I guess then I'll make the motion
Sorry, Mayor.
as enacting. Can I?
She can.
Okay. I'll wait. Just to be clear, I'll let somebody else make the motion for action on this.
I'm sorry. Go ahead if you want.
I don't want to be in violation of any rules, so.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion then that we pause any penalty as it stands right now, just for their peace of mind, and then push this off to the policy committee so we can have that two-way conversation and come to a conclusion on the resolution for this.
Okay,
I'll-
Yeah.
I'll second it.
so a motion by Scott, second by Brad. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against.
So
Seven-
I will, just before you go ahead, I will I'll try to get that set up as soon as I can, inviting them to the meeting and the policy committee, and if we have to do something Teams, we can do it that way too, to make it work, so, okay, I'll work on that tomorrow.
Okay. 7C. Thank you.
Thank you.
7C, approve change order number 2, adding Ken Avenue to 2025 project.
So the city, or the EDA has recommended the city proceed with the construction of the Canna Avenue to support the development on the property adjacent to Walmart. We had a cost of construction estimate of $74,000 for the Canna Avenue portion, which is on page 21 of your packet. It's the north-south and just a little bit of an L. And then we also got an estimate to construct the portion that Tractor Supply will be building as part of their project. And that estimate was construction cost of $55,000, and then there's some storm costs as well. So what we're proposing is that the EDA the city construct the whole thing. Tractor Supply will contribute back the amount that they were going to spend to build the road anyway, and any balance would be assessed to the property owner, which is the developer of the property. And then they recommend that it would be paid back to the city upon sale of the first lot or no later than 10 years. And so that's kind of how the EDA discussed it today. They thought that was a good way to further it. That way it would be a public road, it would be built to public commercial standards, it would be curb and gutter. It would be a road instead of us doing a public road and then matching it up with, I believe they were looking at a 5-ton like residential local road standard for the other part of it. So the EDA felt it was in the best interest of the city to get a commercial type road in there from the beginning. And so what this would do was it would be a change order to Keekly Underground, who is in here for our other project. So when they get paused because they're waiting for CenterPoint Energy or something, they can bounce over there and get that done.
Okay, just to clarify, so this wouldn't be approving a change order, this would be approving the final design, you get the numbers for a change order that then would come before
Right.
the council for, just to be clear.
And
So
that-
we're asking to, I'm just trying to wrap my brain around what Keith just said. We're asking him to compile the numbers.
We're asking to approve the change of the design and get the numbers from it.
Okay. To then go and request change order.
Yeah, because we have all the estimates that he gave us, so we want to solidify those.
Okay. And then the cost goes back to the EDA after the sale of the first lot? This goes back to the
The money would
EDA?
come back to pay the city back, yeah.
Okay. Back to the EDA.
Yeah, the
Okay.
EDA fund, yeah.
Was the consultant or advisor there to the owner, did he get back to you with what Tractor Supply was going to pay? Was he able to get that number of that
Not since the
55,000?
meeting, no.
Okay.
Any
So
other
there's still
questions?
some moving parts, we just want to keep it moving forward. And I think the EDA kind of landed on that, let's just get this done.
I think this makes the most sense with the timing of the project too, so if we can combine it all. Is there a motion to approve the change order number 2 with Keekly Underground to construct Canna Avenue to the tractor trail, to and tractor trail?
So moved.
Motion by Brad, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joe, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Resolution 25-65, calling for hearing on final assessments 2025.
So this is for the 2025 street project, which is the Birch Pine project that Keith reported on earlier. We had the public hearing in '24 that held to notify all affected property owners of the project, and a reasonable estimate of the amount of each assessment was provided at that time. And then we sent an updated estimated assessment after bid. So now we need to have the public hearing for the final assessment, and we're recommending it be held on August 1st, which is the first council meeting of August. All affected property owners will be sent a notification which will include their final assessment amount. Following the public hearing and adoption of the assessment, owners can prepay their assessment City Hall up to November 15th with no interest. Otherwise, it would go on their property taxes for payment back to the city over 15 years. So what we're looking for tonight is to call the resolution, or call the public hearing on the final special assessments for the 2025 street project for October 1st.
October 1st. Thank you for clarifying. I just want to let the council know that I will not be at that meeting, so if there's anyone else who wouldn't, just to let you know. Is there anyone who has any other comments? Otherwise, I'm looking for motion to approve Resolution 2025-65 for public hearing on finalist special assessments.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Motion by Scott, second.
I'll second.
Second by Joe. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Resolution 2566, calling for hearing on assessments unpaid bills.
So each year, the city council reviews outstanding invoices for utilities and service payments and has the option to certify those unpaid invoices for collection of property taxes. We do have a listing that has been prepared for your review, and I will send that out to you on email. Prior to certification to the property taxes, the owners of said properties are afforded the option of attending a public hearing on the proposal. We're requesting that that meeting also be held on October 1st for that public hearing. So that's resolution calling for the public hearing to consider the certification of special assessments.
Any questions? I believe we do this every year around the same time. Is there a motion to approve the call for public hearing?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joe, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Brad. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4 in favor, none against. Authorizing execution of closing documents, Resolution 25-67.
So we have 7F and 7I are actually almost identical action items. What these are is the purchase agreement has been completed for the sale of Lot 1 of Block 3 of Authors Edition. So we're looking for the council to authorize the mayor and city administrator to execute all closing documents necessary to complete the sale. And so that is 2025-67, and on the image that's on your packet, you can see which lot that is.
Is there a way to combine your motions on both and cover
Sure.
both? Okay.
The other one on 7I is Lot 1, Block 1, completely on the opposite side of the development. And the EDA recommends that the city council proceed with both sales.
Okay, I don't know why we would not. So is there a motion to approve both 7F and 7I?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 67 and 71, approving the sale of those two lots.
Motion by Brad. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Scott. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4 in favor, none against. Motion carries. 7G, approve Resolution 2563, accepting bid for roof repair street garage.
So the 2025 budget includes repairs to the old part of the street department garage. At the time I wrote the packet, I thought it was 80s, but now I found out that it was in the early 70s that roof was put on. The budgeted amount is $20,000. We reached out to contractors, received 2 quotes. Steve Moritz Construction for $21,780 and Sean Kelly Construction for $20,905.40. So we're recommending that we go with the low bid to Sean Kelly Construction, Resolution 2025-63.
Okay. Any questions? I have one question. Was this considered during budget meeting last year? Is this new?
Yeah, no, it was in the budget.
Okay. I didn't recall this, so I just wanted to clarify.
It rains in there. It comes through the light fixtures, so.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2563, accepting quote from Sean Kelly Construction for $20,905.40?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joe, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Scott, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7H, accepting, 2568, accepting quote for senior center AC compressor repair.
And this is an updated report that you got in your packet tonight because we have a revised estimate. But the AC unit at the senior center has failed. Upon inspection, we found considerable hail damage to the unit, so I have filed an insurance claim on that. We did get 2 quotes we received for the repair. We had Central Heating and Air for $6,741 and Ellingson's for $7,716. Central Heating and Air bid the replacement with electrical extra. Ellingson's included the electrical, but it's only about 1 hour's worth of work. So we are recommending that we go with the low bid for Central Heating and Air with the understanding there will be about 1 hour's worth of electrical we'll have to hire on top of that. So that's Resolution 2025-68, accepting the quote for the senior center AC repairs.
Okay, any questions?
Where is this, where are these funds coming out of?
It would be out of the senior center fund, separate fund with the senior center. They have a repair and maintenance budget.
Okay, and that has not been used, obviously, and where this
Correct.
falls within it?
Correct.
I think we made some changes to our staff that has allowed us a little bit extra room there.
Right, right.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve 2568, accepting quote for senior center AC repairs for central heating and air?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Scott, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Brad, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7J, pay request number 4, Keekly Underground.
So this is pay request number 4 for the 2025 Birch Pine project from Peakley Underground. As you know, the contract is $4.77 million to them. They have completed $2.4 million, or 2.461. We have paid quite a bit of money, 1.627 to date. There's a typo in there on the subtotal. And so the amount due this request is $787,184.12. And this is after retaining 5%.
Any questions? Is-
Well, I have a question. Do we pay this request when there's questions about the performance of work?
The 8th Street is not in this one. This one
Okay.
ended before that curb went in.
Fair enough, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, is there a motion to approve pay request number 4 to Keekly Underground?
So moved.
Motion by Brad, second.
I'll second.
Second by Joe, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Right, unfinished business. 8A, policy on assessment, stormwater utility easements.
So the policy committee, and since they're already having another meeting, this will work good with them. I was planning on getting them together prior to the August 20th council meeting to make a recommendation on how stormwater special assessments will be treated in the future on properties with storm pond easements. Essentially, you have a property, the city has an easement on your property for storm pond. Do you have to pay a stormwater utility assessment on the land that we're using for a storm pond? And that would be a change to our special assessment policy, so we'd go through the official policy, have the policy committee review it and see if that's what they want to do. The reason that I want to get that in front of the policy committee is we have a couple lots in our existing project that do have storm pond easements on them that would be affected. And then I would bring to the policy committee the impact of that to those properties. So if I'm recommending the policy committee, and we talked about that before, and I think you just keep that moving forward.
Okay. 8B, shoreland alteration permit moratorium.
So because we've had inquiries about the shoreland alteration permit moratorium, you know that we adopted that on the issuance of shoreland alteration permits. It was put in place so that we gave some clear and effective procedures and processes to develop and implement. The Planning Commission was tasked with that project. Once that's completed, the Planning Commission will make a recommendation to the City Council and a moratorium will be lifted. Now, we had the 1-year maximum on that. That's the outside maximum. It can be lifted at any time once we have everything in order. Currently, we have been looking at all the different jurisdictions. You know that there are multiple jurisdictions. We have City of Sauk Center, we have Sauk Center Township, we have Condota Township, we have Birchdale Township, we have Stearns County, we have Todd County, we have the watershed district. So there's a lot of moving parts to look at all of the ordinances. And our ordinances are very similar. It's how you enforce them, review them, look at them, educate the public, and so that everybody is looking at them the same way. So what we're proposing to do is to have, checklists, brochures, all of those kinds of recommendations to develop those so that there is a very clear and concise procedure and handout so people know what they can and cannot do, what's good for Sauk Center. Our problem that we have is that Sauk Lake is entirely, has a circumference of floodplain. And we do have a floodplain ordinance as well, and that has a whole different set of rules with FEMA. So we're trying to figure out how to merge those two things together. The Planning Commission is probably going to ask the City Council for input during the process on various items on how you look at it, but that'll be up to them. So we don't have a specific date for implementation right now. We are working on it, we'll be working on it, but I understand the frustration, especially with the lake being as high as it is. Right now, it's 1.8 inches above the ordinary high water mark. So it's gone back down to where pretty much close to the summer pool level. So hopefully we won't see more erosion, and we'll just keep pushing it forward. I don't know if you have any questions for us at this time. Any other questions I can answer or provide any more information to you, but I did want to put an update on the agenda because I know people are asking.
So when did we put this into place, Vicky? When did we put the moratorium in place? The date, the date.
Oh, I don't know, Sarah, do you remember? April.
April or May, yeah.
And we haven't had a lot of, okay, so in the last few years, we've had 7. One of them applied ahead of time. 6 of them we found about after the fact, and we had to do restoration. And so that's where our issue is we need to educate people, because most people, we don't have a city boat, well, we do, but the fire department doesn't let us take it out.
We just got that too, so.
But, so we don't know about it till someone rats somebody out. And then that just makes it all the more difficult to deal with it after the work has been done. We much prefer to work with people up front. This is what you can and can't do, and that's great. But I would say 90% of the people do it. In fact, they've even told us, we just did it, we want to just pay the fine and be done with it. And that's what we're wrestling with, is how do you balance that? And so it's not just clear procedures, it's education.
So will the planning commission be seeing this month, like just updates as they go along with this conversation, or where are they at as far as their next time to see this in front of them?
That you would have to ask Sarah, but I think the planning commission meeting at the next meeting has like 4 public hearings for other items, so I don't know if they'll be working on it or not.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're only meeting once a month, and we started in April. We're already 6 months by the time you potentially even start working on this. That's a long time. And I know, Vicki, exactly what you said about the fact that it needs to, we need to educate people. But if we're not looking at changing our processes in a whole lot, or changing our rules, so to speak, because if you look at the cities and you compare it to Todd County and Stearns County, we're very similar. Matter of fact, when I talked to Sarah, I think, she made a comment, we're almost identical to Stearns County, which we are, if you look at the two side by side, which I've been looking at. So it's more of an education, but I don't want to penalize those that are having problems, because we as a city can't figure out how to educate them. So I would just ask to take it back to the planning and zoning and say, what's your goal? If the goal is education, then let's put together some type of a checklist, some type of an education, whatever that is, but we don't have to take a year to do it. I know you said we can end at any time, but if it doesn't become a priority for the planning and zoning, they coming back to us for quite a while. And so I would like personally to see a timeline set on it, whether it's 60 days or 90 days or 3 weeks. I mean, leaving it open-ended to me is not the right thing to do for our community, for those that are being challenged with the issues of eroding shoreline. So I don't know, how the council feels, but somehow we got to get it active. And Sarah, I know that's your area, and so it kind of, goes back to you and working with your committee about, do we want, when and how are we going to attack this? And if we don't, then send it back to a committee on the council, or we'll make an ad hoc committee and we'll work on it. But somewhere, somehow, some people's got to be working on it. I mean, if the planning and zoning are going to have all the questions and they're going to all come back to the city anyways for answers, then maybe a committee within the city needs to, from the council needs to work on it. I'm just throwing ideas out there so that we can keep this moving. I think we should be able to have it done in 60 to 90 days, and that would have been July.
Would the most appropriate committee be the policy committee? And if so, do we have, who's on it, a representative from planning? Or just ask that Sarah be involved?
Pretty sure Warren's on the policy committee, isn't he?
Who's that?
Warren?
I
He's on the
think
policy
Warren
committee?
is, and he is the head of the planning commission too.
Okay.
Brad, are you the other one on the policy committee?
I am. But I still think we need to have the planning, this is their this lays in their, in their avenue. So we do need them engaged. I just would like them to be able to come back to the council with a timeline. That's what everybody needs, everybody wants, so that they can plan accordingly. That's all I'm asking. But if, Sarah, I guess to you, if they choose they can't, then I think we need to welcome it and move it to the policy committee and continue it forward.
And they have their meeting next week, correct? So then by the next council meeting, we'd know what their feel was on it. if you briefly touch on it as far as like if they want it remanded to policy, if they'd prefer to send it somewhere else? Or get their timelines?
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions, suggestions? If not, we will move on to new business, Old Mill Apartments proceedings.
The owner of the Old Mill Apartments on First Street has been asked to allow an inspection of his building for public safety purposes. He's had some damage due to the storms. The water that has been leaking through is getting down more than the top level. And so we're looking at inspections by the rental inspector and the building inspector, the fire chief, or the fire marshal and the chief of police. And we have talked to him about it, and he said he would allow us in there, but he's also bringing his insurance engineer, I think is what he said. So they'll all go in together at the same time and do an inspection so we really know what the condition is in there. And so just to let you know, if you hear anything out on the street, and we're going through the process of getting the inspections done and see where it takes us.
Okay. Any questions regarding that? If not, paid family leave medical law, 9B.
Yep. So as you know, there's new legislation in implementing a paid family medical leave program. Goes into effect on January 1st, 2026. Employees have the option to apply for paid leave when time off is needed to care for themselves or family members. The program is similar to how unemployment works, is that they apply for it through the state, and there are some private insurance companies that are also doing it. The program is funded by a tax on wages, unlike unemployment. This is actually more like Medicare when it comes to that. They have established, the actuaries have determined that it would take 0.88% of wages to fund this program at the state, and the city has the option to pay the entire amount or pass half on to the employees as a payroll deduction, similar to the way Medicare is handled. So we need to determine if we want to pay half the tax and have the employees pay half, or if the city wants to pay the whole amount. It's going to be about $20,000 annually to the city to make those payments. So if we determine that we're going to pass it on, it may involve bargaining with the unions. So I wanted to get in front of this a little early. So I'm recommending it go to the Personnel Committee to look at it further.
The $19,500 annually, is that the 0.88%, 100 to the
that's
city?
total cost,
Okay.
yeah.
I think, I'm agreeable to it going to the Personnel Committee. When is the next time we bargain unions?
I don't have anything. When is the what?
Or when is the next time we discuss unions, that our contract is up?
26.
In 26?
But we have to, so this would have to be an amendment, because this would go into effect on January 1st of 26. Our next union negotiation will be in 26 for 27,
Okay.
so.
General consent, Personnel Committee?
Yep.
Okay. That brings us to our consent agenda. Schedule of claims, unpaid claims, $1,547,929.55, for a total of the same minus campground refunds of $5,690.65.
That's
So the
plus campground refunds.
plus, excuse me. So the total is $1,553,620.20. Attachment 10B, Resolution 2570, accepting contributions from the Men's Card Playing Group of $157.80 to the Senior Center. Dwight S. Williams of $500 each to the Fire Department, Ambulance Department, and Police Department. And we would, as a city, like to acknowledge those contributions from the Men's Card Playing Group and Dwight S. Williams. 10C, we have a request from Missy Terrace, DBA Mustang Bar 3 Incorporated, for a temporary extension of premise permits for Anniversary and Band on September 6, 2025, in the back parking lots behind Meads Building and Old Main Street Drug Building from 8:30 PM to 12:30 AM. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented? Or any questions?
What's the campground refunds related to? Those like,
So what that is our credit card processor for refunds, like if people cancel a reservation, change a reservation, or anything that involves that. We used to be able to just refund them straight through the software. But with the new rules that anything older than 6 months, it won't refund back. And because we allow reservations a year in advance, this is the entire year so far that we've had to refund this way, the $5,600 and some change. So That's what it is. We're trying to get it worked out where they will process them, but I didn't want these people to have to wait any longer for their refunds.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, motion by Joe, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Scott. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. We have no informational items, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Was that Joe?
Yes.
Okay, motion by Joe, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Brad. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.